Hi, Robin. Can you hear me?
Yes. How are
How's it
you?
going? Good.
Not
I'm doing
bad at
good.
all.
I saw your message. I have it on my to-do list for today to add the other email. So I
Perfect.
am gonna do that today, probably right after your lesson. I just had
Perfect.
a real busy morning, had to drive a friend to the airport super early and just been busy since then. So I'm planning to do it right after this.
No worries
And
at
I'll
all.
add
Thank you.
this one too.
Perfect.
Great. Alrighty. Yeah, I'm glad we found something that's easy for you. That's great.
There you
Okay,
go.
so tell me what are some of your observations and reflections from the last week or so?
So during regular speech,
Yeah.
I am getting a little bit more aware.
Oh,
Um,
great.
it's just that some of the crisp T's, it's not so much that I can't do it. It's more
Yeah.
that I'm choosing not to because it just seems a little too
Sure.
polished. But then what I've noticed is, like I told you, my boss has done speech lessons,
Yeah.
and I've noticed her use the crisp teas much more
Mm.
effectively. It's like a blend between the
Ah,
crisp tea and the not so crisp tea, especially for things like got it.
right. Hmm. Right, because some phrases are more casual, like got it. Like that's a more
Exactly.
casual kind of phrase. I feel like if you have longer, more complex words, words people don't hear very often, those are going to be words that I slow down and make sure they're more crisp. There are idioms that we have, these little phrases and, you know, turns of phrase, things that people just say, that don't always even make sense at first glance, but people just kind of know that they mean a certain thing. So something like, got it, that's casual, people know what it is. Um, but if I said something like, extraterrestrial. Sorry, I was like, wait, how does the end of the word go? I haven't said that word for quite some time. So that's a word that, we don't always say and people aren't used to hearing all the time. And it's a longer, more complex word. So then maybe I am more sure to make those T's more crisp and clean for that particular word. Or tertiary, right? If I have words that people might go, huh? What did you say? I really want it to be clear. So when you're giving a presentation and you have city names from another country that people aren't familiar with, or you have some kind of technology that, again, people aren't really familiar with, and you want to explain and use the official language of that particular scientific thing or technological thing, we will be sure to slow down and make that a lot more clear. Whereas when you're having more casual conversation, short little phrases, things that are, like joking around. It's a lot more casual. And so I think in those situations, you can definitely be more relaxed with those D's and T's. And if you listen to people just, on the street having an ice cream cone at a restaurant with friends, they're probably a lot more casual with how they phrase things and the diction as well. But if you listen to people give a big presentation or speak in front of a large audience at a conference or on the radio or a newscaster or a lot of actors who've had voice training, they will be people that you're going to notice, oh, their diction is a lot better. And part of the reason we have this kind of diction is because it shows that you're educated and you're probably more affluent and that you are more polished. And so you're kind of able to join elevated circles Like if you're trying to get the attention of an investor and you dress well and you speak well, and then they appreciate you more and they maybe remember you more and they feel like maybe you're at their level of someone who went to somewhere like Yale, or Harvard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, you can kind of be anyone from anywhere, but if you learn to speak well, you will glean respect from people, I would say. Now, in
Absolutely.
casual settings, people will be like, why are you talking like that? Like you're
Yeah,
putting on airs. But for certain circles, it's expected of people there, right?
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
situational.
Got it. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like if it's a tough word or a word that isn't
Yeah.
necessarily used, then I get it. Yeah, the crisp tease makes sense. But if
Yeah.
it's more colloquial,
Colloquial. Yes.
colloquial, or just like a saying kind of a thing, then that's when you can.
Yeah. Something like
Perfect.
a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. We don't have to really enunciate a lot for that. It's just a common phrase that people just know. Or get her done. Right? People
Perfect.
just say
Yeah.
that to be like, let's do this. Like,
Yeah.
let's, you know, get this task accomplished, or like, you got this, It's just a phrase people say. And so you don't really have to enunciate, get her done. I mean, that's not at all get it done, right?
Yeah.
It's very much casual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's situational. So I think it's perfectly fine to have times where you sort of let yourself off the hook and you just relax. I also like to kind of read the room and see what other people are doing and then try to match their energy and their conversation style, their body relaxation or more poised. And I really just try to observe a little bit at first and then try to engage more in the way that people in that space are engaging.
Perfect. That makes
Yeah.
absolute sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and kind of put aside the D's and T's for right now then, because I think you know what to work on. I was thinking maybe we would do, because previously you asked about working on some just everyday phrases you might use randomly or often. And also, I was thinking about focusing on the L, R, W, and V today anyway. So I'm perfectly fine with kind of putting aside those D's and T's today because you've actually
Perfect.
been doing really well with them anyway. So, yeah, so my plan was a little different anyway. So I think we're good. So, starting with those everyday phrases, let's do I'll be right back. Let's go ahead and start that a little bit slowly.
Okay, this is actually very opportune because I will be right back. Give me a second.
Oh, okay, great.
Sorry, I was putting gas into the truck and
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
no
needed to.
problem. Yeah, I get it. You just needed a second. Also, I apologize for my voice today. I have some intense seasonal allergies at the moment, so I know it's a little off, but
No
hopefully
worries.
good enough to get through. Um, So if I have like a little moment, where it cuts out a little bit, it's, just the allergies. All
Perfect.
right. So for I'll be right back, that's a little bit more formal in the way we would say it. So usually this would be a phrase I would make a little bit more casual. I'll be right back, you know? And it's a little bit kind of blurred together. The consonants aren't as poppin', like be and right, or back. I'm not doing
Yeah.
as much of that. It can kind of all glide together. It can be quick. It can be just kind of tossed out there because people use this phrase all the time. And people will know what you mean, even just kind of by your body language. So
Hmm.
you can just be like, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like you can even soften the consonants even more, honestly. I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, like I
Got
don't really even necessarily do the T.
For
It's more
right,
like
yeah,
right
I'll be
back.
right.
It's almost
I'll be
like
right back.
I close to like a D and then I just kind of go straight to the B. And
Yup,
I
I'll be right
allied
back.
them all together. Like, be right. That's like one word. I'll be right
Be right.
back.
I'll be right back.
You hear how they all kind of connect to each other?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and they just sort of glide into each other. Germans actually do that where they kind of invent new words by just connecting and linking words. So they'll take the smaller words and they'll just string them together to make a new word that means something or express something. And I feel like this is kind of like that, where they just kind of string some words together and it just sort of glides through almost like it's all one word. So you can be a little bit more soft with the T's, or you can turn them into D's, or you can just glide into the next word. We don't have to do like a strong K. I'll be right back. Like it's a
Yeah.
very
Hey,
soft K sound.
Mandy, I wanted to share something. Like,
Yeah.
obviously I've been in the country for, I don't know, what, almost 20 years,
Oh,
24 years, I
yeah.
guess. And as a kid, I was actually raised in an American academy in
Okay.
Saudi Arabia.
Oh, neat.
But till before maybe like about a year ago, everyone sounded the same,
Oh,
except maybe, the southern drawl, which I would hear very
right.
rarely. Yeah, that's a little distinct, and I can tell.
Yeah, like
And
a
then,
hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Or a
exactly,
that's a big old truck outside.
there you go. And
Yeah, my
then
dad's from
Minnesota
Alabama.
too.
Minnesota, yeah, my mom's from Minnesota, so I grew up hearing some funky dialects. Oh
Yeah, and
yeah. Oh sure,
I,
don't you know? You betcha.
and I spent some time there, so I guess that's why it sounds a little
Yeah,
distinct to me. But
sure, yeah.
literally now, for the past year, and especially the past few months,
Hmm.
like people sound so drastically different.
Oh,
Like
that's
it's
amazing.
almost it's almost like that appreciation when you go to India, like the languages are so different, but you get that
Right.
same feeling now with like people that I meet. I'm like, it feels like this is a very diverse country than I originally imagined.
Yeah, I know in India, they even have almost like entirely new languages in some areas. And like in China, people speak different languages. I had a friend in grad school who she grew up speaking a really like small rural kind of language that was more remote. And then she also had to learn the kind of official language. And then that's what she used with other people from different Asian countries as well, because none of them
Mhm.
knew her like original way of speaking. And so yeah, I've found that really fascinating that when I've talked to people from India, a lot of them have said that the different states are almost like in Europe, like different countries, and then it's
Right.
like the
Yeah.
European Union. And so I really find that fascinating, but you find that everywhere. We have these pockets of like German speakers, French speakers, people from Serbia, right? And so a lot of immigrants have kind of like communities. Um, like we've got the Pennsylvania Dutch that speak a dialect of German, and we have in Louisiana the French Creole. And so they speak a type of French that has kind of like a southern influence. So it's pretty fun to hear people in different areas, but I love that you have that awareness because that just shows that your ear has developed so much and you're actively listening and you're kind of studying what you're hearing. So I love that. That's great. So
Perfect.
then, yeah, let's go ahead and try some more of those everyday common phrases. So let's say you went out with a friend in a city they live in that maybe you're in for work. You don't really know the city well. So, you're going to go out to eat and you say, "What's your favorite place?" So that's a
What's your
more kind of
place?
clear, formal way to say it. But if I was going to say it to a friend, I'd probably say, "What's your favorite place?" Or "What's your favorite place?" Like if I lived in the same city, I could be like, "Oh, well, my favorite place is this, what's yours?" So, if I was on a first date or something. Um, yeah, so I feel like you could emphasize different words depending on the situation, but it's going to be a lot more of that strung together, that I mean, you can do the T there, or you can do more like a "what's your favorite place?" Some people would probably just drop the T entirely. And instead of saying your, a lot of people would say your, and then favorite instead of like favorite, they'll do just like a favorite. And then, you can soften that T as well and place, you can kind of mute that pop and P. So, like "what's your favorite place? What's your favorite
What's your favorite
place?"
place? What's your
Exactly.
favorite place?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Or let's say you were in a city that has a winding river with a walkway next to it with cute little shops and restaurants and things. So maybe someone asked you what you wanted to do, and you say, "Let's walk along the river." Now, that again is more diction than I probably typically would say if I said that to a friend. So maybe more like, "Let's walk along the river," or "Let's walk along the river," right? So it can be, I mean, I feel like I'd have a little more diction on this one because I want it to be clear that I'm like, "Hey, let's do this thing," right?
Right.
But it
Let's walk
probably
along the
would
river.
be a little bit more mellow and muted. So I'd probably go with more of like
Yeah. And
medium.
there is a from going from the to river is a bit different. Uh,
Ah,
because I have to focus on the R, but I got to make sure I don't mess
mm,
up the V in the river.
mm, yeah,
Let's walk
river.
the river. The
Right. So I,
river.
I don't think you have to do like a river, you know? That would maybe be a little bit more Northeast, private schools, took speech classes kind of way of saying it. But I think you can be more casual. River. You can still hear
River.
the R's and the V, but I spend less time on the vowels and I kind of just gloss over them.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
walk along
cool.
the river.
Yeah. So then let's go ahead and try another phrase. So let's do, okay, so say you have somebody who wants you to report on something, or you're a manager and your boss wants you to write reviews on all of the employees that you work with and just kind of rate where they're at and good at and bad at. So you could say something like, "I'll write a review later." And you can say it with that much diction. Even though this is with work, I probably would minimize it a little bit. "I'll write a review later," right? So it's a
I'll
little bit clear.
write, I'll write a review later.
Exactly. So later is more like later, a D.
Later. Yeah.
Right? I do a T because ride is a completely different word. So that's a word that I really want to be sure it's a T. And then review instead of review, right? It's review. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of like
I'll write.
quick through those vowels. "I'll write a review later."
I'll write a review later.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like that would be more appropriate or you could be a restaurant critic or something, right? And you could say that. All right, so let's try. We talk about the weather a lot in small talk. So we could say something like, the weather is really warm today. I could say it like that. That's fine. If I was, say, narrating an audiobook, maybe I would because I want to be sure people can understand it. But let's say I say this to my husband or to my friend or to my neighbor, right? Then I can say it more like, the weather is really warm today. So you hear how that today is more like today, and the others we just kind of move through quickly. The weather is really
The
warm
weather is
today.
really warm today.
Yeah, I feel like I do still enunciate quite a bit, but that today I feel like is pretty different. And then I'm eliding things together. Weather is really, they just kind of flow together. So try saying that one more time.
The weather is really warm today.
Yeah, and you put a little bit of emphasis on really, which I think is appropriate because it's saying it's not just warm, it's really warm. So that was a really nice inflection and way to express that. Awesome. All right, so let's say you visit a friend who has a housewarming and you go to the back and their home is on a beautiful cliffside with gorgeous fields of flowers and forests beyond. Or maybe they have a lake view or something. So you could say something like, that was a very lovely view, or that is a very lovely view. So I could say, that is a very lovely view, right? So that I do more like that. I don't really say the T, I just kind of close at the end. That. And then was a very lovely. Like I just kind of glide together. Lovely view. So I am again probably like a more medium, but that was right. I just cut off that T entirely. That was a very lovely view.
That was a that was a very lovely view. Oh, B's and the W's
Yeah.
now.
So
That
let's
was a very
say you are in an office environment. You went to meet with somebody and talk about what your company can offer. So then I might do, that was a very lovely view.
that that was a very lovely view.
Yeah,
That was a lovely view.
good. Yeah. So a little more space between words, more diction, articulating very clearly. But if it was a more casual situation, you went to see the view at the back of the house and you come back to the front and chat with your friend in the kitchen. That was a very lovely view.
That was a very lovely view.
Yeah. So try just dropping the T on that.
That was a very lovely view.
Yeah. That would be a more casual way of doing that. That was. So I don't even say the T, I just go straight to the W. Wonderful. Yes. So different scenarios, different way that we communicate. All right. So some common social phrases we might try. We could do, let's say, you and your wife went out to lunch with a couple who are good friends. And then you're saying goodbye and you say, we'll see you later. That would be something you definitely could use pretty often.
We'll see you later.
Good. Yeah. And you're already leaning toward that more casual kind of thing. We'll see you later.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, that yeah and later, like a D instead, because it's not going to be confusing later. There's not another word that's similar to that. So you can swap that out and it's a little bit easier to say. Let's say you just had a meeting with colleagues and then you have to go to your own offices for a while, but then you and another teammate are going to meet with somebody else later today. And maybe like you and this other person are going to work on something else. So you say that in a professional setting, we'll see you later. So I might say it a little bit more. We'll see you
Mhm.
later, right? Or we'll see you later. You could still do later there. We'll see you
Mhm.
later. But I definitely would
We'll see you
do
later.
a little bit slower, elongating the vowels a bit, and you definitely instead of ya, right? So casual, ya later, and then more formal, you later or you later would be okay too.
See
Yeah,
you later.
yeah, exactly. Yes, so just a little bit elevated. All right, so let's say you go to a conference and you sit in on a presentation that blows your mind and you're just like, whoa. Or you take a class and you're like, wow, I had no idea. And you learned a bunch. So you go up and you tell the presenter or the teacher, I've learned a lot.
I've learned a lot.
Good. So make sure learned is a D. I've learned a lot. And
I've
here,
learned.
yeah, here I would definitely do the D and the T. I've learned a lot. And it's okay if you go a little bit faster or I've learned a
A
lot.
lot. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, a little bit of a T at least. It doesn't have to be like lot, but at least like a lot, like a soft T. I've
Yeah,
learned a
I've
lot.
learned.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot.
Right. So because of the words, I'm probably going to enunciate a bit more on that one. Also, you're talking to someone who you respect, right? But let's say, oh, you're having a breakup and you're like, you know what? Thank you. Because I've learned a lot. There, I wouldn't enunciate as much. I've learned a lot.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, you don't have to emphasize the T now. I've learned a lot. And I just kind of like
I've
lot
learned a lot.
and I just sort of close my mouth. I've learned a lot.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Ariana Grande song, Thank You Next, right? It's like,
Yeah.
thanks for everything I've learned and I'm moving on, right? So let's see. Okay, so let's say you have a landscaper come to your house and you're working with them on improving your yard. And you show them the yard, and it is in massive disarray and overgrown. And, you want to maybe put in a stone walkway and like a bench under a pretty tree and things. And so you say to them, we've got a lot of work to do.
We've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. So I feel like if I was in a work setting with a colleague, I might be a bit more formal. We've got a lot of work to do, or we've got a lot. We've got a lot of
Oh,
work
we
to
can
do.
do. We've got a lot of work to do.
Right. Casually, like with the landscaper, maybe, we've got a lot of work to do, right? So it's got a lot. And it's like a D
Yeah.
there. We've got a lot. And then of work to do. So I feel like of and work, I would say more clearly. And then to do, I might just link them together like one word. We've got a lot of work
Would
to
you
do.
just go, would you even blunt out the of and make it got a lot of work to do?
Yeah, absolutely. In a casual setting, for sure. Got a lot of. A lot of people will say that. But in a more professional context, I would say, we've got a lot of work to do, right? So I'd be a little more articulate, enunciate more.
Yep.
Yeah. So then let's try. So, say you were asking someone for an update on how something is going at work, and you say, what's the latest update?
What's the latest update?
Right. So, in a work setting, I feel like I might do more like, what's the latest update? Or I might do, what's the latest update? So you could do
What's the
latest, like
latest?
a D instead. What's the latest update? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they say latest, will do latest. And again, part of that
Latest.
is because we don't really have any word that sounds like that. So it's not going to be confusing and it's a little bit less effortful. But the rest of it, I do think I would enunciate more. What's the latest update for a professional setting? Go ahead and try that.
What's the latest?
Yes, exactly. And you can say just, what's the latest? Because that's a common phrase, and often people will shorten the sentence to again make it simpler, communicate faster. Let's say instead I am chatting with my neighbor who is doing a big project, renovating their home or something. And then I say, what's the latest, right? Or what's the latest update? It's going to be pretty similar, but it's just going to have a more casual tone. What's the latest update?
What's the latest update?
Yeah. I don't think I would make the last T as crisp. Update. It's more of a D there too. Latest and update.
Update.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly.
What's the
Yeah.
latest update?
Exactly. Yeah. Again, we don't really have any word that's similar to that. So it makes sense. It glides more easily. It just flows off the tongue more effortlessly. So then let's say you go on vacation to the Grand Canyon and you're showing it to your son for the first time ever, and you say, look at that beautiful view. So that would be a bit more formal, right? So casually, I might say, look at that beautiful view.
Look at that beautiful view.
So more of like, look at, I would just kind of close the at and that beautiful. There you can do a D and then the view. So look and view. I'm going to say the way I always would say it. But then that at that beautiful, those three at that beautiful, those three can
Look at
glide
that
more.
beautiful view.
Yeah. Try just that beautiful.
That beautiful.
And now try at that.
At that beautiful.
Yeah. Look at that beautiful view.
Look at that beautiful view.
Exactly. Yes. Lovely. So that's a lot more flowing, rolls off the tongue better, a little more casual, right? So do you have a better idea now of what we're striving for in those situations?
Yes,
It
absolutely.
will also put people more at ease in casual settings if you speak a little bit more casually. If you're very formal and poised and kind of perfect in a relaxed, casual, friendly setting, it will be off-putting to people. However, if you're in certain more professional settings, let's say you are on the board for the city's symphony and you go to that meeting, it's going to be less casual. It's going to be more affluent people, and they will probably speak in a more elevated way. And they go to the symphony in their best and, dress up and do their hair. And, then you have people who just go to the symphony and they wear their jeans and t-shirts and they look at them like, you don't belong here, right? So there are different settings for different ways of speaking. And again, a great rule of thumb is observe and listen for a moment and then engage, mirroring what you're seeing and hearing around you.
Perfect.
Yeah, nice work today. I think this was really
Thank you.
productive. We definitely can work more on these kind of things. I just, you might have noticed, was doing a lot more L's, W's, V's, right? So I was specifically working on certain sounds, but in that context. And we got to work some D's and T's in too. That's why I was kind of like looking through phrases and I was like, let's do that one.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. Great work today. I'm going to update that Google Drive and I'm going to add this lesson to it.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
I'll send it to you, but I think you can just access it then too. So
Yep.
you should see it in your Google Drive pop up. All righty.
Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, I'll see you soon. Bye, Robin.
See you
Have a
soon.
great weekend.